everybody, it's Romania Black, and it's been a while since we've read Yona of the Dawn. It's been well over a month, but volume 40 is out. Well, it's not technically out, but the chapters that it covers, chapters 229 to 234, those 6 chapters are done. So, oh my gosh, I have been patiently waiting for this volume to get done. I've been so busy this fall that it's just around December and I finally have time to sit down and finally read it. So I've been spending today catching up on, because it's been about a month since I've read Yona of the Dawn, so I wanted to catch up. Getting back into the whole thing with Val and Maignan meeting, the castle's probably on fire, Yoon's been captured by these Dromos, Hyori is like gonna face them, Riri and the others are gathering, and Yona and Hak and Suwon and all them are thankfully out of the fray, but Yoon is in trouble. So there's a bunch of chaos happening, and we ended being like, well, what's going to happen now? Is Yona's dream of everybody being in danger going to come true? Where do we go with this? It's just, there's a lot that was left hanging, and I've been really hyped up all day to get home from work and read this volume. So the sad thing is that after this volume, I only had to wait like a month to get to this. After this, I've got to wait for chapter 235 is out, but I'm going to be nice. I'm going to wait. Because chapter 235, 236, 237, 238, 239, chapter 240, those are the chapters that will make volume 41. And so I'm going to have to wait on those. So after this volume, it's going to be a longer wait than usual, which is sad days, but at least the manga is not over, right? And with Kusanagi, I will patiently wait until she finishes what she has to, because the woman is amazing. I received a gift from a patron from Japan about, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there was a lot of Yona of the Dawn pictures and coasters and things, and so I'll eventually have to just take pictures and put it on Twitter and on Patreon on the Discord of all the pictures of everything. But I'm spoiled with Yona of the Dawn stuff now, and I still haven't found a home for all of it, so it's kind of like, as I wait, I'll at least get some of the spoils. And there was even a little guidebook and stuff, so I may, as we wait, as I get impatient, I may go back through and look at that and do a little video about it for you all and show you everything, show you the goods. But yeah, I'm really excited about this volume, but I know it's going to go by too soon, and so hashtag tears, very sad, but I'm really excited to see what's going to happen and to be teased by Kusanagi. Who knows what we'll get? I don't know. But in any case, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, and it's been too long since I've read Yona, and so I can't wait to dive in. So it'll go by too fast. Of course it will, but we'll just have to see. So we are going to start volume 40 of Yona of the Dawn. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoy, but we're going to start reading chapters 229 to 234 here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. These chapters went by too fast. These chapters went by way too fast, and now I have to wait, and I'm frustrated about it. Dang it! Okay. Be that way, Kusanagi. Man, these chapters went by really fast, and this volume was very sad. I mean, there was a lot of humor sprinkled in those last couple chapters, and I was like, thank goodness, because we needed some levity after the horrible heaviness of this volume. Oh my gosh, Kusanagi. What I like about this volume is that Kusanagi is not wasting any time. They're like, there's stuff going down in Hiryu Palace. The underground mausoleum, as far as we know, is okay. So the dragons are okay, but there's some weird stuff going on, right? Something's amiss, right? There's some weird stuff going on in terms of them being okay. So that's interesting that they're doing okay despite having that fever and everything. So I'm very curious what's going on, right? And if it has to do with the Phoenix part of it, what the deal is. I have theories, but I'm a bit worried. And I don't know what to do, because it's I don't know what to think. It's interesting, right? But these chapters, There's some like some heaviness to them and sadness, and then there's some levity. Like Kusanagi just throwing a bunch of stuff all over the place, but I like that she's not wasting any time. Like we've had several volumes where we've been debating on like what to do battle wise, but now it's like, okay, let's just move in. I feel like they're going to try to resolve the South Kai thing in the next volume, or at least resolve the main conflict, because Cheagle's there. So if they destroy Cheagle or if something happens, but Hawk's there too, and Val is there, and they got to rescue Maignan. I'm like Kusanagi, you just rip the knife into us, why don't we? So yeah. So this chapter 229, there's not a volume cover, so I'm going to have to find a thumbnail to put on the volume cover. But we don't know. There's still things that are left unsaid. Why I didn't bring Whiteboard Coon out because I was like, I don't know what to write on Whiteboard Coon, but there is some unsettled, unresolved things, right? We don't know what happened to Tetra, Ayura, or Lily. We have no clue what happened to them. We assume that they're trying to put out the fire if they're still alive. We don't know exactly. We assume Huri's dead, but we don't know exactly how Val and Yoon escaped. That's not really been told to us. So we can only kind of guess. We're like, well, Val and Yoon escaped, but we don't know exactly how. And we don't know what happened with Lily and the others. So we assume the Dromos are dead, the ones that were there, but like, are Lily and them trying to put out the fire? What's the deal? Is that why the dragons got their strength back? I guess, dang it, I need to bring Whiteboard Coon out. This is what I get for thinking I don't need Whiteboard Coon. I was like, oh, I don't need him for this. And then I get 2 seconds into this review and was like, I need him. so we have unanswered questions about unanswered that we're gonna have to like discuss here, because these chapters go by so quickly, and I feel like there's a lot of information that Kusanagi is usually pretty thorough, but there's like a lot of mysterious info that Kusanagi is not. We are being distracted by this battle, and Kusanagi's like, oh, we'll worry about other stuff later. That drama's for later. And I'm like, why don't we answer the drama now? But you're gonna make me wait 5 months, Kusanagi. So that's where we are, right? So unanswered questions. We are like, Lily, Ayura, Tetra, and then Huri. I'm assuming Huri is probably dead, but where are they? We don't know. We don't know. We assume that Hiryu burned, but Zeno said that the mausoleum was underground and probably safe. Okay. So that begs the question too of so the Crimson Dragon King, his remains and everything is tied to their power, right? Because it's in Hiryu Palace, right? Is that what we're getting at? So we'll put theories right here that are brought up. So is King Hiryu's remains the source of their power? That seems to be the case. That seems to be what's suggested. That it's not just the location, but it's actually where he's buried at. So that seems to be the thing. I will go with it. But yeah, these chapters were really doom and gloom. I love the look that Riri gives. That one look by Riri, she looked great in there. I want to get a picture of that. She was fierce. I was like, all right, girl, go get him. But we don't really get like what happened with her and Tetra and them. And Val manages to escape. I like that Val the whole time is like, Val's had all these revelations. He's found out the girl that he's bickered and grew up with his childhood friends likes him. He likes her. They give each other pet names. He nearly dies. She gets taken away by Cheagle. It's just all this stuff he denounces being a general so he can pursue her to be with her. It's like, all this stuff happens. It's crazy. And meanwhile, and Tetra and them are just like, I love that Tetra is just like a wing woman, like, go for it, Val. It's great. But Huri. So Huri's died. But, oh my gosh. The Dromos, I'm glad the Dromos are gone because I don't like them. They look like Death Eaters and they're creepy. They're like the Dementors, not the Death Eaters, but they're like Dementors from Harry Potter and they're very creepy and I don't like them. And I'm glad that most of them are gone. But of course Cheagle's one of them. What the hell? And so, yeah, I liked the chapter 229 where we see Val and them like fighting the Dromos. And I love that shot of Maignan where she's got her sword. It looks great. I love it. And then they basically praise Hiryu being like, okay, he fought and weakened them, so now we can fight back. I was like, awesome, we can actually win this. And then I love watching them fight back to back. It's so good. But then, yeah, the one Dromos is like singing, and he's the one, is he the one that took Yoon that was late? Or no, he came later. Okay. Like, the one Dromos was like singing as it was lighting the kingdom on fire, which is super weird and creepy. But yeah. And so then they all light the castle on fire, and it's Chegal that does that. And I love that Yoon stands up for himself. I love Yoon stands up for himself, and he has this moment. He's like, what would Yona do in this situation? And then he pulls the firecrackers out. He's like, she wouldn't be afraid. She'd take charge. She'd get this done. It's like... And he manages to get away, and Tetra and Ayura, like, go to his rescue. But then the other Dromos are defeated. And I love that in the midst of all of this, all this chaos and madness, Mainion's like, oh my god, you just call me May? Are we giving each other pet names right now? And he's like, we're in a battle. I love it. And I love that as she's being threatened, she's like, so... we're going to go back to talking about those pet names, right? Like, her priorities, I'm like, she very is similar to Suwon in a lot of ways, because Suwon, even in this set of chapters, was kind of like, oh, all this scary stuff? No, let's not focus on it. Like, I like that both her and Suwon kind of, like, try to deflect the chaos and anxiousness by putting some humor into it, right? And she even says that she'll drop the L in his name and just call him Va. I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, so Chegal and them are still there and in the castle as it's burning to the ground, and Val goes to fight him, but, well, the last Dromos fights him, and then Chegal's the one that wraps his arm. I hate that Chegal calls her kitten. It's so gross. I'm like, ugh. It's like, ew, get away from Maignan. Nobody wants it. And he stabs her leg so that she can't run away. His stray cat. Ugh. It's so creepy. And I love that in the shot where he's like with her and he has the whole Phoenix thing, Ho is like on her shoulder, like Ho just looks really like just not thrilled with any of this. I don't remember if I commented in the last volume, it's been a little while, if I commented about the Phoenix versus the dragon bit. But yeah, so we have South Kai and we have the idea of the Phoenix. And then we have the dragon of Koka. Now, obviously, phoenixes are associated with rebirth and fire, which ties to him burning down Hiryu Palace. It ties the whole, like, phoenix motif. That makes sense. My theory, though, would be, and these are, okay, so with the dragons and their power, right? With the dragons and their power, Jeha theorizes that it's because Yona is close that their power remains. But I'm not so sure about that because she was close to them in the tents and their power was still waning. So I'm like, I don't know if that's the case. I think they're just telling themselves that, and Zeno's like, sure, we'll go with that until we figure something else out. My theory could be, though, that with the burning of the palace, is it something like a phoenix where they have to suffer for a while and go through it, but then once the fire dies down, they just kind of like rebirth their powers and start back up again. I get a little worried about that because I'm like, is that suggesting that like the cycle is going to start again soon and like they're going to lose their powers and die? Obviously, I'm like, I don't think Kusanagi would kill off the dragons. I really don't, but I'm like, Kusanagi, what we doing? So did like this phoenix effect happen where they were all like thinking things were going to burn down and then the palace stopped burning and they were okay? Did Riri stop the fire? We don't know what happened with them. We don't find out anything. I'm like, Kusanagi keeps a lot in the dark in these chapters, and I'm like, I get that it seems like she wants to hurry up and get to this battle with Chegal, but I'm like, there's some bits and pieces of the story missing, and maybe I trust Kusanagi that she's going to bring it back, right? Also, Chegal is giving off major Phantom of the Opera vibes with that Dromos mask, and I don't like it either. I'm like, no! So yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll come back to it at some point. I do like that we got the double spread of them, like Yona on one side and Hak on the other. But Cheagle's just awful. This venomous snake. Yeah, the poison spreads, chapter 230. And so we talk about that she's the one that killed Rantan, which kind of makes sense that she did it to get to go on the journey because she was so desperate to see Suwon, right? That she wanted to meet him, so she was willing to do anything to be a consort on that mission, even if it was killing Rantan, who did nothing wrong, right? And so he's like, you skillfully killed him, yeah. And poor Val's like, oh crap, like she felt she had to do it. I like that Ho is just like nestled in at her neck trying to avoid everything. And Cheagle's just the worst. He's suggesting that he's the only one she can go back home to because of how guilty she must feel for betraying like her comrades. And she starts to cry and I'm like, leave her alone. And I'm like, I love that Val is like, you made my lady cry. We're done here. I like that Val's like, I'm sorry. It's been great. It's been real. It's been really great being your general. But you just made the lady that I like cry and you're a scumbag. So I'm gonna quit right now. I was like, oh. I was like, Val. He's like, I've got to quit so I can save her. She's not alone. And I'm like, oh. Val is just, I was waiting for Val and Hak to meet. And they do in this set of chapters, and it's too much hotness. Kusanagi's like, they're too hot together. We can only be together for like one chapter. It's too much hotness on one page. We've got to separate them again. But it's great. But then, yeah, all these other Dromos appear. And Yoon and them are like, please stop. And I'm just like, Val is fighting all of them, trying to keep Riri and Yoon safe as well. And Mainyon's like, all I wanted... Like, here was the thing I wished for my whole life. She's like, I just wanted to be with Val and be safe. And if I have to give that up to save them, I guess I'll give up my happiness. Like, she's just done. It's so sad. And then, I'm sorry, but no. Cheagle, he's been despicable and a scumbag. But the moment he, like, pushed Ho off of her shoulder... How dare he? How dare he? I was like, no, you crossed a line. You crossed a line for yeeting Ho off of her shoulder. No. And then he takes her away. And Val, he kills the one Dromos. He gets slashed in the eye. Luckily, he doesn't lose an eye. But Cheagle, like, takes him on as he's getting attacked by the other Dromos. And he says, I'll truly miss you. And somehow, the thing of it is that Huri comes in, or Huri comes in, and he's like barely standing to save them. And it's because Suwon told him, he's like, you have to protect Mainyon and you no matter what. And so Mainyon is sad because all these people are dying because of her. Yoon is sad because he can't defend anybody. Huri is dying and sad because he's not doing his job. And then Huri Castle's burning. And so I'm assuming that Huri dies and that's what allows, and then Yoon takes off with Val to go after Cheagle. But I'm guessing they left Riri and them there to try to put out the fire. And I'm guessing maybe they did do that. So maybe they did stop the fire and that's it. So we can make the assumption that maybe... Riri and them stopped the fire. Maybe that's what allowed them to regain their strength. We don't know, right? But we have the dream that Zeno has of them falling into the pit amidst the flames. And he's like, they'll fall into the flames too. And it's so sad when Zeno calls out for the king. And he's like, someone help. And then that's when Yoda like wakes him up. And Zeno seems pretty fine. Like once Zeno gets up, it's like a light switch happens and he's okay, right? And Hawk's there as well. But then the rest of them have all lost consciousness. I love that Hawkeye has Jaeha's body and he's like, say something if you're going to kick the bucket. And Jaeha's like, stop. And so they all have like the same dream. I love that Al's just sitting there with an acorn like, eh. But they had the same dream of being engulfed in flames. And Yona, Zeno gets a little bit worried when Zeno sees that she had the dream, right? So Zeno's a little bit worried. So, okay, questions and unanswered. Does Yona have her mother's gift. Gift of foresight. I kind of don't want her to have that gift. I kind of want her to be her own person and not have the same gift as her mom. But if she does have it, that's fine. But I kind of hope she doesn't. I don't want her to be influenced by stuff from the future. The interesting thing about her dream is that Hak is not in it. Hak's not in her dream at all. She has a dream that Maignan and Suwon die and that the 4 dragons die, but Hak isn't in the dream at all. So Hak's okay in her dream, which is curious because Hak's the one we've been worried about being dead this entire series. So I don't know if what that means. I don't know if maybe what is dying, maybe what it's supposed to represent is that the power of the dragons and the Crimson Sickness are going to die. And it's what's inside of them that they're representing in her dream. Maybe she's envisioning that the power, maybe she's getting a premonition that the powers of the dragon are going to leave and that the Crimson Sickness will go with it. Maybe that's her dream and that's why Hak's not there. I don't know. That's a more optimistic look on it than that they're all going to die, but it's what they represent that dies. I don't know. Zeno seems a little bit concerned though, right? Zeno does not seem too good with this. And so everybody's freaking out about the castle being on fire except for Suwon. Suwon, he's just like, is everybody hungry? Are we good? Like, because Suwon's like, we shouldn't panic. What can we do? Suwon is thinking like, okay, let's not panic. His face, the way that Kusanagi draws him when he says, aren't you hungry? It's very interesting. It's like the most childlike he's looked in a while, which is interesting. It's kind of crazy, but I feel that Suwon's going, if we rush back to the palace, that's not going to help us at all. They're just going to corner us there, and that's going to be a really big problem because there'll be a fire to worry about. They're like, no, our forces are here. They've not fully retreated. They're vulnerable too. Let's not get hasty, right? He's like, if we move from here, it's the Earth tribe that'll be invaded. Let's not forget that. If we go, we're just going to be more vulnerable in more ways than one, right? And so I do like that Kyoga's like, he's the one freaking out and everybody just kind of around him sort of calms him down. And so Yona, she questions, she's like, how are you during all this? And he's like, I'm fine. And she's like, if this is about Hak, he hasn't completely recovered yet. No, don't worry about him. And he's like, have you seen anything else in that dream of yours? And that's when Suwon makes the suggestion asking if she's inherited Kashi's power. So Suwon, she hides the fact that she tells Hak and Zeno overhears it, and I like that Hak's right outside Suwon's tent. I'm like, I'm this close away from being like, Suwon, Hak, now Keys, get together and talk, you bakas. But we're not going to get that yet. Of course we're not going to, because Kusanagi's like, they've not fully recovered yet. They can't talk to one another. I love that when Yona's like, I told you to sleep, like Al like mid jumps into Hak. It's really, really cute, right? But I personally don't want Yona to have any special powers. I want her to stay like she is. It wouldn't surprise me if people thought she'd have special powers, and so she's just so worried though. She's like, my mother was a shrine maiden and the future was exactly as she foretold. And she's like, I did see something besides Hiryu burning. She's like, I thought it was a dream, but Hiryu Castle's burning just like my dream. And Hak, he gets so worried there. And I love that he like, her hands are shaking and he just grabs her hand and he's like, it was just a dream. He's like, I won't let that happen. I love that Zeno's like sitting there listening to them. He's like, I'll never let it come true. As he's like holding her hands. She's like, it's too early to bow down. I can't let it happen. This is what these hands were always teaching me. I don't know. I'm like, Kusanagi, why are you tormenting us? Why do you do this to us? It's just, why? Also, Jeha manages to look like a Victorian beauty as he's struggling, right? He's like, yeah, he just manages to look absolutely drop dead gorgeous as his hair's down and he's just like got a fever. So, and now Zeno says Zeno's okay. Zeno's fine through all this, which makes me worried that maybe the ones whose power can pass on are in trouble. And he's like, the divine protection of the castle is weakened, but it didn't completely vanish. The mausoleum might still be standing. That's underground. And he's like, and they were still wounded from battle, so it's fine. He's like, if we're talking in terms of injuries, it's nothing compared to Hawk's. And he's like, And then Hawk's like, you're not getting to go by yourself, Yona, without me. I'm staying by your side. And so they go check on Kyoga, who is suspicious. The other troops, they're asking Hawk to return to help them deliver food supplies. And then of course, the first time Hak and Val meet, it's them swinging a blade and a knife against each other. It's like, are you kidding me? And then, yeah, of course, then Yoon's like, I'm here. Please don't kill us. And then this is Val. He's the former South Kai general. I forgot that Yoon has no clue that Hawk was okay. I love it. The Thunder Beast. I love that even the art style changes. I love that Yoon is so freaked out that Kusanagi makes it look so blocky. It looks absolutely ridiculous. I absolutely love it. And then, of course, my favorite panel of all time of Hawk and Yoon is now officially like him giving Hawk like a face noogie. It is the most precious thing, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, then we have Hawk there. And then we come back to Kaji. Now my brain had a brain freeze because Kaji and Kija look eerily similar. They have the same haircut and they both kind of have the same toned lean body. Like, I know what is this fan service we're getting? We got Kaji fan service, we get Val fan service. It's like, we're fine. Suwon's never undressing in front of us. That's it. But we get Haitae and Ron and all them debating like what's happening with Maenyon. And we find out that Kaji kind of like Kija has an extreme loyalty to Maenyon like Kija has to Yona. And he's the younger seeming one. And so he wants to protect her and find her. And then Chagel shows back up with her. And it's really sad, but they talk about how that Val betrayed them and has been killed. And then he says that the Phoenix of Kai has devoured the Dragon of Koka. And he's like, we're going to crush them like the worms that they are. And it's so creepy to see the soldiers, like with their smiles, they have the mask-like faces. Chagel is very intimidating. He's very strong and intimidating. Don't like him. He needs to go. And I'm very curious how they're going to defeat him because he seems like he desperately wants to figure out who Hawk is. And everybody wants to fight Hawk. Everybody wants to fight Hawk. He is the hero of heroes, right? And I'm like, but now Ron's met up with him, so what are we going to do with that? Ron and Kaji, well, it's not Ron. It's like Ron and Val are there with Yona and Hawk. So what do we do about this? Are they all going to... I'm curious if all of them are going to team up against Chagel. Will the generals betray Chagel? Will they have enough and betray him for the sake of Maenyon and Val? I don't know. I would kind of like that if they betrayed him because it's not like South Kai doesn't have any other leaders. Chagel just wants to become the main one. So if they betrayed him, it's not like South Kai's without a leader, right? And for him to say that anybody that doesn't kill Val if they see him again is a traitor, it's cruel, man. But then, yeah, Maenyon, she just looks completely done, right? So we come back to Val, who's totally fine. He just, is just sitting here showing off his abs. It's great. And then the Hawk, of course, is sitting there like, hey, what's up? Want to be best friends? And like the Val's instantly like trying to kill him. And he's like, Yoon told you not to move. I love that Hawk's like, you'll learn. Yoon's words, Yoon's commands are absolute. I love it. It's great. But yeah, these two meatheads, Val and Hawk, they're great. I love their battle stance against one another. Kusanagi hath blessed us. It's great. But yeah, and then Sheena army crawling to get the food with a little hoe. Oh my god, it's great. Like this was the levity that I needed in chapter 232 because for like the first 4 chapters, it's just really sad and really like anxiety inducing as Kusanagi does. And then we get some great chapters of them all being fine. And of course, Hawk's like, look, I'm not going to fight you. You saved Yoon. we're friends now. Get your strength back. Come on, let's do this. Let's go get your lady friend back. I know what it's like to lose that. And he's like, we've got our princess too, you know. It's like, oh, I love, anytime Hawk talks about Yona, it's just like, keep doing it, sir. And then Keyshook has this whole thing about not wanting her to go. And Suwon admits that her presence is helpful. And he's like, okay, fine. We've called for Xing for aid. You are helpful because you've brought this force in to help aid us in going to the encampment where we think Chagall and them is. So you can't say that you're not needed or wanted here, right? It's like, So Keyshook, he says that he has like, what does he say there? Keyshook has this plan, right? Because we have in the next chapter, that's when Korn and them show up. I love that Algira, he's just like, oh, we can't call her Nyan Nyan. We have to just call May Nyan. It's like, damn it. What can we do? And Voldo is surprisingly like airheaded. What? He's like, I don't remember that from previous chapters. Excuse me. And then I love that, the one guy from Xing, he has like the cat eyes. He's amazing. I love him. I love the 5 stars that are now 3 that are there. It's wonderful. And then Keyshook makes note that Corin, who doesn't normally get along with people easily, is like best friends with Yona instantly. And that's the power that she has. So then we get little previews of how Yoon and Val got away. And there's the scratch over his eye. Like he has the scar from the glove that he had, right? And so, interesting. And his eye's not hurt, which is good. And, oh my God. So this part here where they talk about going to the encampment and breaking in. And we get Hawk and Suwon back to back. They're on a freaking wavelength. They're both thinking the same thing. It's like, come on, guys. Kusanagi's all but letting them meet and have their moment together. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me, Kusanagi? What are we doing? But yeah, they decide that they're going to go to the encampment to try to beat Chagall and their forces there. Because if they let them go back to the Phoenix Palace, they'll regroup. They'll possibly go to Kiryu. It's not going to be good. But if they cut them off at the pass of the encampment, they can stop them before they regroup and get them while the going is good. And so that Hawk and him kind of come to the same conclusion. And I like that Jeha's like, well, we can help you. And I just love that Jeha's like, oh, we can help you and Yona. And Hawk's like, no, we're not going to do that. And I just love that. I love the idea that White Dragon's like, we'll help sober him up. And Zeno's like, you guys are the last ones that should go. And then, of course, Val, like Hawk, is not swayed by Jeha. I love that Val's like, well, everything you said, Jeha, sounds great, except for the man part. And he's like, no! Kusanagi! I love that Val's like, sorry, I'm only into the ladies and only into Maignan. It's great. And they tell him that they're the 4 dragons. And so we get the idea of the 5 stars, the 3 of them, freedom, obstinacy, and the natural airhead. It's wonderful. And so Corin admits, like, yeah, we took care of Gobi and all that, so we're here to help you. Let's go do this. Let's bring Maignan back and go. And Suwon realizes that Yona is not going to back down from this. So we might as well just do it, get it over with, get her back promptly. She knows about the Crimson Sickness. We need to get her back and do that. So then Keyshook has this thing where he's like, I think we should have stopped Yona. And Suwon's like, well, you seem pretty concerned about her well-being. He's like, I'm only giving my composed opinion. I get it. I was just thinking it was time for the next stage as well. I'm like, Keyshook, I don't know. I still have this stupid idea that Keyshook wants to like hook Suwon and Yona up and get them to marry each other. And I'm like, that's not going to work. I hope that's not the case. I hope that Keyshook is not like, well, if Suwon marries Yona, he can keep her with her at all times. And then Yona's going to be like, but I love Hawk. Like, we've established this the last couple volumes. They've all but said it officially, right? So, I don't know. I'm like, Keyshook, don't be doing that. So, what is Keyshook's plan? Keyshook's playing with Yona. I just feel like that's not going to go over well because I'm sure Suwon's going to be like, no. And Yona's going to be like, no. But we cut back to the encampment where Kaji decides that he's going to sneak in and see what Maignan's doing. And he finds out that she's injured. I like that Ron sticks up for Hak throughout all this. Ron's like, no, I believe Hak. He wouldn't tell any lies. He said that Maignan was treated fine, so I believe him. I like that Ron has this respect for Hak. Again, I'm going to be really curious to see what their interactions lead to, right? Especially now that it's Hak and Yona together against Ron. And now that Chagall has seen Yona and that whole business, right? So it's just everything's getting crazy, right? And so then he finds Maignan, and poor girl, I'm glad that she told them that Hak didn't betray her, that he was trying to protect her. And we find out that, of course, Kaji had been jealous of how close Val and Maignan were. But like Kija, it's very similar to Kija, because Kija was kind of jealous of how close Hak and Yona were. And then he decided that he was going to just protect Yona no matter what, despite that. And it seems like Kaji makes the exact same, he makes the same pledge. He's going to protect Maignan no matter who she ends up loving, even if it's not him. But God, Chagall. And Chagall calling him a mouse. Chagall saying, what are you doing with my cat, you mouse? Oh my God. I do love the cover of Hak with the lapis lazuli as he's got the robes on over him. And I like Haiti and Ron too when they know that the nobles come. They hate that the nobles here because they treat war as Haiti says, as some sort of field trip. I like that commentary. And again, I feel like this could be Kusanagi leading to them like kind of staging a coup where they don't help the nobles because they don't like them, and they help Val and Maignan escape. And like they're like, go, elope, rendezvous once they realize what's going on. But I don't know. Or maybe they'll just kill Chagall. They just need to get rid of Chagall. That would solve a lot of the problems if we just get Chagall out of the way. So it's the middle of the night. Kusanagi wastes no time. Kusanagi's like, we're just gonna infiltrate now. Like in the middle of the nighttime, holding these torches to show like how many of the army are there. And then they lure parts of the army out. And I'm all for the Water Tribe general, like getting in the battle. Like he's been absent for the battle most of the time. And for him to actually have the arrows and be firing it, I'm like, it's a sneaky move, but I'm like, you're actually getting in the fray. Okay. All right. And then seeing Korin and Suwon together is crazy because they look so similar. It's kind of funny with the armor on. If her hair were longer, it'd be hard to tell the difference between the two of them. It's interesting. You could argue that one could probably ship Suwon and Korin, but Suwon doesn't like women. So there is, in my mind, not a heterosexual bone in Suwon's body. He likes no women. I'm like, if you're going to ship Suwon with anybody, it has to be Hak. Like, that's literally the only person you can ship him with. I liked him and Lily for a while. I thought that was a great ship. And then the more I've read this manga, I'm like, no, he is not into the ladies. Nope. But yeah. So, Keyshook's like, Yona made the suggestion and Your Majesty put an order in the strategy. Aren't you the one who told her not to go too far? And Suwon's like, we need to get this battle over with. And I like that Suwon in his head says, I'm choosing to believe in her power. Like, interesting. Interesting that Suwon is believing in her. So, that's curious, right? The idea of Suwon believing in Yona. Could that have something to do with the dragons regaining their power? Could it be that the Crimson Dragon bloodline and the soul has to match up again for them to be okay? Could that be it? Could Suwon and Yona have to like team up together and like synchronize with each other and that be it? And maybe that's what Keyshook wants, is he wants to keep them together. If Keyshook finds out that there is a correlation between Suwon and Yona getting along and the dragons keeping their power, he's going to want them to try to get married. And I'm like, no, Yona's being with Hak. Again, just have Yona and Hak get married and Suwon live with them. I see no problem with this. I see no problem with this at all. But yeah, and then Shina is like, all right, let's do this. I'll use my powers. And I love that drawing of him taking off the mask. It's so good. Like, that image of Shina is just beautiful. And then I just Hak is like, okay, princess, let's go. He's like, hold on to me. We got this. And then Jaeha, of course, is like, could you two just refrain from flirting here? And so they get on him. It's great. And they're like, okay, I love the Hawk's like, now fly. It is literally the cutest thing. And I like that Val's like, what in the world are they doing? And Zeno's like, oh, this just happens all the time. This is totally fine. I just love that Jaeha, he can't help it. And then we have just the Chaos Quartet. Or I guess it's a quintet if you include Voldo in it. It's mainly the trio of Algira and the one guy with the long hair, and I forget his name, and Kija. They're like just the chaos trio. These children. And she's like, how are you guys doing okay? And they're like, it's somehow everything's fine. And then the 5 stars, they go up against... It's funny, we have 3 generals now. We have Kaji, and we have Ron, and we have Haite, and then we have the 3 stars. Interesting. And I guess you have the 3 dragons, if you don't mind, if you minus Zeno from it. Interesting. But yeah, they're like, you guys look healthy for someone who's in such bad shape. And then Jaeha's like, yeah, you finally noticed. He's like, suddenly when I feel like my hand's burning up, the heat eased off. And the backlash isn't as strong. As long as we're close to the princess, our power will maintain itself. And so she's like, oh, is that it? And she's like, really? And I love that she's like telling him to get well. But Zeno has the bad feeling about Chego being there. I love that Zeno has the bad feeling. He's like, oh, look, there's a strange fella. I don't know. Something's up. Something's up about their powers being okay despite Hiryu Palace being in flames. Something's up with that, and something's up with that. We don't know about Riri and them. I want more answers, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just like the calm before the storm. It feels like it. And then God, he sees the red hair. And I love that Hawk goes after him. And then they all chase after the Dromos. And that's when General Ron is there. And General Ron doesn't know that it's Val and he's going to attack him. He doesn't know that it's Val with his back to him. And just as he goes to turn around, Yona jumps in the fray, as does Hawk. And then Al's just there, because why not? These chapters were too short. I should have known better. I should have known better. I sat down to read this volume tonight, and I was like, it'll be fine. But I knew in my head, as soon as I started reading, I'm like, they're going to go by far too quickly, and then what do we do? And here we are. How dare it? How dare it? So, yeah. Now I have to wait. Now I have to wait. Ugh. That's how it always goes. You catch up to a series, and you get one volume, and you read it, and you're now, I want more. But dang it. I'm going to resist, though. I could go ahead and read, but no, then I'll be even madder because I'll have to wait. The reunion with the rival he respects the most. So yeah, so now we have volume 41 to look forward to, which is going to be chapters 235, 236, 237, 238, 239, and 240. Curses! It's going to suck having to wait, but luckily I have many things on this channel to keep me busy while I wait. But with the exception of chapter 235 that I know has come out, I'm all but caught up with you all. And so now we can talk about these set of chapters, but I don't know what to think about. There's lots of things Kusanagi leaves a mystery so far at this part of the story, like what's happened with Riri and them, but also the whole thing with Yona's dream, the castle burning. I kind of don't want her to have powers, but at the same time, I don't know if it has to do with the Crimson Dragon. I just don't know. Or if Hawk's going to be the one to ground her in reality and be like, it was just a dream because you were worried. So yeah, I don't know. But I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. I am so glad that I got to read Yona. It was like a Christmas gift seeing these chapters. But now, of course, I want more and I've got to wait. So grumble, grumble, grumble. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. But I will be back next year. Sadly, it'll be next year. But I'll be back as soon as I can with with volumes 235 through 240 of Yona of the Dawn. Bye.